Hello there. Today we're going to start reviewing for the exam, and this video will be reviewing Unit 1, which was line segments. So the first thing is we will review how to find the length of a line segment. So the formula for the length of a line segment, to label it, you write AB, if we're finding the length of AB, or you could put a line over top. Some people do, some people don't. So it's the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. So this would be x1, this would be y1, this would be x2, and this would be y2. So the length, AB, would be equal to the square root of 5 minus negative 4 squared plus negative 2 minus 3 squared. I guess we didn't need that quite so long. And BEDMAS, so brackets first. 5 minus negative 4 is 9, so that's 9 squared. Negative 2 minus 3 is negative 5, and since it's negative, you have to keep the bracket. And that makes the square root of 9 squared is 81, negative 5 squared is 25, and 81 plus 25 would be 106. Now you would leave it as a square root unless you were asked to change it to a decimal and round it. So we're just going to leave that as the square root of 106. Now for midpoint, the midpoint formula, you would use a capital M for midpoint and then a little subscript AB. And that is a coordinate, so you need brackets around it. So the x-coordinate is x1 plus x2 over 2, so we're averaging the x-coordinates, and then y1 plus y2 over 2, average the y-coordinates. So the midpoint of AB is negative 4 plus 5 over 2 for the x-coordinate, and 3 plus negative 2 over 2 for the y-coordinate. And this works out to 1/2, and just by coincidence, this also works out to 1/2. Your numbers should stay as fractions and lowest terms. Do not round them to decimals. Lastly, slope uses a little m with a subscript AB, and that is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So the slope of AB is negative 2 minus 3 over 5 minus negative 4. And negative 2 minus 3 is negative 5. And 5 minus negative 4 is 9. You will leave your slope as a fraction in lowest terms. If there is a negative, you keep the negative up at the top. If there's two negatives, then they turn into a positive. So those are the three basic skills of finding the length, the midpoint, and the slope of a line segment. To find the equation of a circle, the formula for a circle is x squared plus y squared equals r squared. So in this case, all you have to do is substitute the radius in for r. So in this case, it would be x squared plus y squared equals 4 squared. And then you can just work out 4 squared to be 16. You are also going to have to be able to find the equations of medians, altitudes, and perpendicular bisectors. So in this example, I will do the equation of the perpendicular bisector. You can look through your notes to find the equation of a median and the equation of an altitude. So in this case, we have a line segment AB. So A would be here, and B would be here. Now, a perpendicular bisector goes through the midpoint of AB. So the first thing you have to do is find the midpoint of AB. And the perpendicular bisector is also perpendicular to AB. So your perpendicular bisector would look something like that. So 90-degree angle, and because it's going through the midpoint, this is equal to this. So this black line is called the perpendicular bisector. So the first thing we have to do is to calculate the midpoint of AB. And that is equal to x1 plus x2 over 2, and y1 plus y2 over 2. And that is negative 6 over 2 and negative 12 over 2. And in lowest terms, that works out to negative 3 and negative 6. So that's that point there, negative 3 and negative 6. Remember, because it's a point, it needs to have brackets around it. Because the perpendicular bisector has to be perpendicular to AB, the next thing you need is the slope of AB. So that is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That works out to 2 over negative 12. Now when you put this into lowest terms, 2 over 12 is 1 over 6. And when there's only one negative sign, keep it up at the numerator. So that is the slope of AB. Because we're interested in a perpendicular line, the slope of the perpendicular line is the opposite reciprocal. So the negative changes to a positive, and the 1 over 6 turns into 6 over 1, which is just 6. So your perpendicular bisector will have this point, which we will put in for x and y, and this slope, which we will use for m. So we start with y equals mx plus b. The slope is 6, so we put that in for m. And now substitute this point in for x and y. So y is negative 6, x is negative 3, and we use that to solve for b. 6 times negative 3 is negative 18. And then when you add 18 to both sides, you get b is equal to 12. So your perpendicular bisector is y equals 6x plus 12. So that's the equation of a perpendicular bisector. Make sure you look at your notes from Unit 1, and you can also find the equation of a median and an altitude. The last thing from this unit is being able to classify shapes. So in this example, you're given 3 coordinates, and you're asked to define the triangle as scalene, isosceles, or equilateral. A scalene has 0 equal sides, an isosceles has 2 equal sides, and an equilateral triangle has 3 equal sides. So what you're going to do is find the length of all 3 sides of this triangle. This triangle would look something like this. So the 3 sides we need to find the length of are PQ, QR, and RP. So using the length formula, what I want you to do is to press pause, use the length formula to find the length of these 3 sides, and then determine if it's scalene, isosceles, or equilateral. So press pause, find the length of these 3 sides, and classify your triangle. When you're finished, come back to the video to check your answer. Okay, welcome back to the video. You can check the length of your three sides, root 52, root 13, root 65. If you didn't get any of those, check your work in here. Make sure all three sides are labeled. And when you are asked to classify it, we're not only going to say it's scalene, but we also have to say why, and that's because no sides are equal. For question B, when it asks if it's right-angled, what that means is that one of these three angles would have to be 90 degrees, which means two of these three sides would have to be perpendicular, which means the slopes of two of those three sides would have to be negative reciprocals. Now, none of these look like 90 degrees, but I just sketched that drawing. So what we're now going to do is to figure out the slope of all three sides. So that would be the slope of PQ, the slope of QR, and the slope of RP. So figure out the slopes of all three sides. Determine if any of them are negative reciprocals or opposite reciprocals, and if they are, then you have right angles. So determine if this is a right angle triangle, press pause now, calculate the three slopes, and determine if you have any right angles. When you're done, press play to check your answers. So press pause now, please. Okay, welcome back. So if you check your answers, this slope is 2/3. This slope, remember, put the negative up in the top, is -3/2. This slope is 1/8. So 2/3 and -3/2 are opposite reciprocal slopes. That means PQ is perpendicular to QR. So then, yes, it is a right angle triangle. So don't forget, you don't just answer the question, you have to state the reason why. So that reviews Unit 1. We don't have that many days left until exams, so hopefully you will remember to watch all the videos that review all the units. If there's any of this video that you didn't understand, please make sure you make a mark of it and ask your teacher during the next day. Thank you.